Here is, without a doubt, the most important programming and training principle that you need to know so you don't work hard for nothing. I have a friend who's been training probably about 3 years now and is constantly trying to look for advanced programming techniques to sort of get him to that next level. He's got an average build. He's one of those guys who really loves being in the gym. And it's really cool to see people get excited about this stuff. But there's often a habit of some guys getting way too far ahead of themselves and thinking the basics are sort of too low level for them when they have so much more that they need to do before they advance into the really complex stuff. And on top of that, he's one of those guys who wants results super fast, right? So he would be constantly looking up some of these crazier methods in an effort to find that perfect program that's going to get him the results that he thinks he wants in his head. The problem is that he's using methods or finding things that are meant for really advanced trainees to sort of break through plateaus or get them to another level. But these advanced trainees have been training for way longer than he has. That's kind of like deciding that you want to drive a faster car than you do now, but instead of comparing to something relatively faster, you're comparing your beat up Corolla to an F1 car without looking at anything in between. And I remember our conversation so well because several times throughout the week, I would get texts like, dude, have you seen German volume training? Do you know anything about wave loading? Just saw Milo Sarsev's programs, so on and so forth, until we'd get a laundry list of programs throughout the golden years of weightlifting and bodybuilding that work really, really well independently, but also are meant for people who are at the stage where that stuff is going to matter. The thing is, though, is that he's not alone in this sort of strength and conditioning, shiny object syndrome of program hopping, because it always sort of seems like whatever you're not doing is the next best thing to do. But in reality, the secret is that if you just stick with the fundamentals, especially for the level that you're at, and do those with full effort, you're going to see a lot more progress than doing phases of 4 weeks in one thing and then jumping to another program entirely because you think that it worked for these professionals and therefore it should be a better fit for you. But I'm going to give you some simple examples here so you can actually build your programming phase over the course of a year in a very succinct way that's going to get you results. So let's say you're planning a training year and all you're looking to do is get, the 3 fundamentals. I want to get bigger, stronger, and I want to get a little bit leaner over the next 12 months. How are we going to do this? Without any specific focus or set of circumstances, typically you would still want to split up your training gear to focus on those 3 goals, not together, but independently and kind of follow them phase after phase after phase. The way we would do this is say we would do 1 to 2 blocks of hypertrophy, where all we're focusing on is accumulating volume into our muscles and getting bigger over the next 12 to 24 weeks. From there, we can change the stimulus because at that point, it's probably getting to a point where you're pretty fatigued and those results are subpar. They're not as good as they were when you first started the phase. So we would now do another 1 to 2 blocks of strength for probably the equivalent time or maybe even a little bit less. Let's say 12 to 16 weeks in this case. Then finally, you can add in a fat loss phase, again, another 1 to 2 blocks, but you want to sort of fill in the blanks here because again, each of these phases can go from 12 to 24 weeks. But the truth is we want to sort of focus on priorities. So this is if I was doing an even split, but the reality is you probably have something that's more important for you to work on. In that case, that would be the priority for most of your training year. And the strength and fat loss part of it would sort of come in as an interim to be able to break up the monotony of, let's say, a full hypertrophy program. If you're looking to get leaner and bigger year over year, right, you want to get a little bit more muscular and you want to get a little bit leaner each time that you do it, you would probably want to make those two sort of the A and B phase. And then that strength phase might just come in for an even shorter period of time, maybe even just 12 weeks, just to break up the difference between those two phases so you don't get too tired or beat up. The thing is that this is just one example. The important thing is that you pick the priorities for yourself, build that initial phase, and then find out what you're going to fill in the blanks with later. And I know what you're thinking because it's the same thing my buddy thought, is that every single time you change to a different phase, am I going to lose out on the gains that I initially got? But truthfully, you won't. It takes a lot less effort to maintain the gains that you have than it does to build. So for hypertrophy, the recent research basically can make you go as low as 1/3 of the volume that it took you to build muscle, and you'll still be able to maintain that muscle mass. The important thing to remember is that specificity is what drives your result. If you're specific about the training result that you want to get, and you stick to this block format and you actually do all the training you need to be doing and not jump every couple of weeks to something new, you are going to see results. That I guarantee. In fact, if you start to do that really well, and then only back off and change the stimulus every couple of blocks, you'll notice that you'll be able to consistently get good results, because as soon as the stimulus becomes sort of inefficient and you're not gaining anything anymore, you change the style of the programming then, and it's actually going to resensitize you to gain more once you get back to the original training block that you actually want to grow with. If this is something that you kind of recognize in yourself or someone else that you know, just do me a favor, like this video, share it with someone that you think it could be useful for, and follow this page.